Hey guys, I'm back. It is Tuesday afternoon. I had a free moment of a little bit of time in my busy work day, and I wanted to come on and make another video because I thought this was an interesting topic that kind of popped up, and I'm curious to hear people's thoughts on it, and I will of course share my own thoughts. And the question I'm going to pose is, does it matter if you don't see it? And one might ask, what could I be possibly talking about? I'm talking about those fine details. So obviously in a vinyl reborn or a sculpted clay doll or something of a more firm medium would not be something we'd be talking about. This is, purely in terms of what I'm talking about with silicone dolls. Any range of silicone dolls from, super affordable dolls to the super high-end dolls. What I want to know is, if you don't see these particular fine little details, does it really matter? Is it as important as, is it important to you at all? To some it may be important, to others it may not be. And I guess with the evolution of full body silicone dolls with all these bells and whistles and features, details are becoming more and more important, even the details you can't see. So what am I talking about specifically? It could be a sculpted mouth. It could be a spine, a squishy tummy. It could be the drinking wet. These are things that upon looking at the doll you don't necessarily see, right? But do those details matter? Depends on what kind of collector you are. For me, certain details really, really matter for realism. And then there are some that I don't care either way. I could take them or leave them. And I'm curious to know what, other silicone collectors out there think, what their thoughts are on this, and their preferences, do these things matter? So for me, I can tell you, armatures is another one. I don't need to have armatures in a doll. I don't need to have a drinking wet in a doll because I'm not, the whole hands-on role play, doing all of that with my doll. Okay, those don't matter. The armatures, I worry that they'll break over time because of, use. And it's proven to be, more often than not that does happen. So out of keeping the doll intact, I don't really need to have them, especially with softer silicone. She doesn't need to have them. She's like ridiculously posable because of how she's sculpted and how soft her silicone is. So she moves beautifully without having to need any armatures. She's also not too soft where, her sculpt stays formed the way it should. So her arms don't bend unnaturally. Her legs don't bend unnaturally. They don't flop in a way that looks like a limp noodle. So she has enough structure and enough firmness to her silicone while also still being very, very soft that she doesn't need to have all of that. Do I like the squishy tummy? Squishy tummies, they're great. I actually do like the squishy tummy, but luckily she has a nice squishy soft tummy, even though she doesn't have the soft gel core tummy. Soft core gel tummy, however that's said. Same with the spine. If you turn her over, if she's got no clothes on, she looks like she has a spine inside the back of her, but she does not. She now here's the difference. Like those are the things that don't matter to me, right? I love her just as she is. I don't yearn to have those things. The one thing I wish she did have was, the non-ball joint neck. She is not done in a one-piece pour. She has a ball joint neck, but it's done beautifully because the way it was sculpted and the way it was put together, you would never know she has like the jointed neck unless you're looking for it, because it's done very well. It's the best I've seen on any doll with a jointed neck. So that doesn't bother me, although it would have been great to have her with a one-piece pour. Fine. Okay. Here's where it starts to really, really matter to me. Having like her girl bits being very well sculpted. I know it sounds strange, guys, but to me, that matters. When boy bits, girl bits, when they are not sculpted well, or they look like they've just been done quickly or not enough attention paid to them, it's artwork to me. You know, the whole doll is artwork. So if you're going to do a full body, I want everything to be accurate. I want it to be done well. And so, yes, their girl bits and boy bits have to be accurate. Claire is magnificent, luckily, at sculpting girl bits and boy bits. So they're done very well. It matters. Same with their little backside, their little bottom. When you turn them over and you see just them laying naked with their little butt, it needs to be accurate. And she, once again, has done that very, very well. It's proportionate, it looks right, you know, it's cute. It looks accurate to a newborn baby's little size bottom, that sort of thing. Those things matter to me. What else matters to me are the inside sculpting of the mouth. That's one that I think collectors really could take or leave, or they feel strongly about. Like, I've seen a range of different opinions on a sculpted mouth. Dolls that have mouths that are closed, like hers is sculpted to be closed, so whenever I don't have it, you know, lifted, you know, pulling it open with my finger, her mouth is sculpted with a closed mouth. She looks adorable with a pacifier, she looks adorable with a bottle in her mouth, but I don't mess with her mouth a whole lot. So one could say, well, if you don't even like feed her, you're not into role playing, what does it matter if, you know, she has a sculpted mouth or not? If she has gums, tongue, uvula, accurate painting in there, does it really matter? Well, to me it does, because it adds to the realism. So I know it's there. And for me, it just adds to that, oh, she feels like having a real baby in the house. That matters to me. There are many collectors and sculptors that don't feel that way, because not all silicone dolls have sculpted mouths. How artists manage to do it, I've seen a tutorial on like how they actually sculpt it and how they pour it and how they insert it, this, that, and the other thing, and it's very interesting. I somewhat can't wrap my head around how it's, you know, I'd have to watch it be done to fully understand, but it's a very intricate process that not all sculptors like to mess around with. So they either sometimes have an open mouth, but there's no sculpting inside, and this could be a high-end doll. There are some very high-end dolls that do not have sculpted mouths, and they do have open mouths. Now, the difference is, like, when they have them sculpted to be closed, you know, they don't worry about it because you're not seeing it, so you can open it and put a pacifier in it, you can put a bottle nipple in it, but it's not sculpted inside of there. You know, the lips are done, but aside from that, you know, it's just silicone inside. To me, that would bother me. And it did with past dolls that I paid a lot of money for and they didn't have a sculpted mouth. Now, some collectors don't mind. Some collectors, to them, it really just is like, what's the point? You know, I'm not holding the doll's mouth open to show it. I'm the only one that really would ever see it. And that's the same with Monroe. I don't think I've ever shared what the inside of Monroe's mouth looks like. So I've actually taken a video, and I will attach it here. And that's the first time I've ever shared the inside of her mouth, because ultimately I haven't, you know, it's for me, you know, people, it's nice for me to be able to show it to people, but it's hard to get in there, and it's not even really the greatest video of it. You know, I had to turn the light on, everything is kind of wonky in color, because in order to see inside there, you have to have like a spotlight, right? But it's nice to know that if I were to pry her mouth open, if I used two hands, I could really see the gums. She has upper gums, lower gums, a tongue, and a uvula in the back of her mouth. And it's all there. Like, I don't know, it just makes me happy just to know that she's like complete. She's got a full mouth sculpted inside of her. Yeah, some of the other things don't matter to me though. So I'm curious, other silicone collectors out there is you know, those not seeing details, like you can't see inside her mouth as I'm filming her. No one's ever really seen it until now. Does it matter to you? Is it a deal breaker? Do you need to have those details? For me, certain ones matter, certain ones don't. And I can never tell you necessarily if one would be a deal breaker unless I came across it, you know. I've never not purchased a doll because of like not having one of those types of features. Like, it wasn't a deal breaker that she didn't have a drinking wet. It wasn't a deal breaker she didn't have armatures. In fact, I love her better without armatures. It's kind of strange how certain things become important to us as collectors. We figure out what our tastes are, what we have to have in a doll, what we don't necessarily need to have in order to fall in love with a doll. And it's very interesting how maybe 10 years ago from now, when I was collecting, you know, silicone still, still collecting silicones 10 years ago, and I would have told you, gosh, yes, I want armatures. Like, there were definite things that I really, really wanted because of posability. But the reason behind that was because it was stiffer silicone. So you couldn't, you know, pose them as easily if they didn't have an armature in them. Even though they weren't hard, you know, they started to do softer silicone 10 years ago, but it was still harder. So you couldn't, you know, the posability, you know, the moment softer silicone became available and artists put armatures in them, it was like, woo, this is great. We were all so excited as collectors because the amount of posability just stepped up immensely, whereas we didn't have that option before. And it was like, okay, gotta have it. Then after a while and it's out, you're like, do I really need to have it? Because then they started to break because we were posing them all the time. You know, wear and tear happens. And then sculptors get really, really, you know, genius about the way they sculpt the actual body type so that they can be posable even without having those armatures. Not every sculptor is able to do that. Claire has been genius at being able to do that. So the way that she, you know, the arms can bend, they're almost sculpted in a bent position, but you can straighten them, you can bend them, and they stay put depending on where you put them, even without the armatures. It's absolutely genius. Other dolls don't bend like that, so they would need an armature. So it all varies. There's all different reasons behind why you'd want a different feature or detail added or function added to a doll. And each one is going to be unique depending on the type of sculpt, how soft is the silicone, what type of silicone blend is it, because that matters as well. You know, how big is the doll, how thin or how chunky are their limbs. All of those things play into, you know, needing armatures or not, posability being great or needing some assistance. All those things play into it. And I know that's getting really deep into it, but it's just kind of, I'm throwing this all out there because I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. I want you to tell me, you know, are different things deal breakers, and do you care about the hidden details, the hidden, you know, perks, you know, all of these great little features that, you know, artists have added. You know, another thing that's a real deal breaker for me is rooted eyelashes on an open-eyed baby or a closed-eyed baby are a must. I need them rooted. I cannot deal with a doll that has glued in eyelashes at this stage in the game, especially something that's high end. I expect it to be rooted. The eyebrows, not necessarily the case. If they're well done painted, then great. Hers are painted, but the way that they're painted, they are very well done. But things like that, like, I want to know your feedback. So I'm going to try to keep this under 15 minutes. I'm already at almost 14, more than 14 actually. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Does it matter if you don't see it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And here's Monroe looking cute as ever. I hope you guys are having a great start to your work week, and we will see you all soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.